In 2001, Yvonne Ridley, a British journalist working for the Sunday Express, was assigned to cover the war in Afghanistan. As a brave journalist accustomed to reporting from conflict zones, she illegally sneaked into Afghanistan, disguising herself as a local woman by wearing a burqa. Her goal was to obtain an exclusive report on the situation under Taliban rule. However, her adventure turned into a nightmare when she was captured by Taliban forces near the Pakistan border. At the time, news about the Taliban was filled with images of brutality, and Ridley was convinced that she would be imprisoned or even executed. In a state of fear, she tried to hide her true identity, but after an inspection, the Taliban quickly discovered that she was a Western journalist who had entered without permission. When taken to a Taliban detention camp, Ridley thought she would be treated harshly. However, the opposite happened. She was not beaten, tortured, or mistreated as she had imagined. Instead, the Taliban guards treated her with respect. They even provided her with food, water, and a proper bed. Among them, there was a man who often spoke with her. Politely, he asked if Ridley wanted to read the Quran. Ridley, who was still stubborn at the time, flatly refused. She felt that this was merely part of the Taliban's propaganda to brainwash her. However, as time went on, she began to notice something that unsettled her: the way these men behaved. Although they were often portrayed as monsters by the Western media, Ridley saw that they lived with discipline, upheld their honor, and remained steadfast in their religious values. During a conversation, one of them said to her, "We will not harm you because Islam forbids us from hurting innocent women and guests." These words changed Ridley's perspective. She began to wonder, why were the people labeled as terrorists more polite and honorable than some men in her own country? After 11 days in captivity, the Taliban finally released Yvonne Ridley as a goodwill gesture to the West. As she was about to leave, one of the Taliban leaders advised her, "Read the Quran. Don't trust the media. Find out about Islam for yourself." Those words kept echoing in her mind. She, who once deeply hated Islam, began to feel intrigued to learn more about the religion. After returning to England, Ridley couldn't ignore her promise. She began reading the Quran and studied Islam objectively, not through the lens of the media she had always known. The more she read, the more fascinated she became. She discovered that Islam was not a religion of violence, as often portrayed in the media, but a faith of compassion, discipline, and justice. The teachings about the oneness of God, women's rights in Islam, and the beauty of Muslim morals deeply impressed her. 2 years after her captivity, in 2003, Yvonne Ridley recited the Shahada and officially embraced Islam. Her decision to convert shocked many people in England. As a journalist, she was known for being outspoken and courageous in criticizing injustice. Now, as a Muslim, she uses her voice to fight Islamophobia and defend the rights of Muslims in the West. She wrote books and frequently spoke at various international forums to explain how the Western media often misrepresents Islam. She was also active in politics, criticizing the foreign policies of Western countries towards the Muslim world. In the past, she thought Islam was a religion that oppressed women. However, after converting to Islam, she actually experienced a freedom and peace she had never felt before. People thought that after I converted to Islam, I would become an oppressed woman. On the contrary, I feel freer than ever, she said in an interview. Yvonne Ridley's story is proof that guidance can come in unexpected ways. From a journalist who once hated Islam, she eventually discovered the beauty of a religion she had misunderstood. She said, "If I had never been captured by the Taliban, I might never have known what Islam really is." Now she continues to fight for the truth and against negative propaganda about Islam. From a skeptical journalist, she has transformed into a devout Muslim and a defender of Islam in the Western world. Elisabeth Jakstadt, a beautiful woman from Germany, once lived a glamorous life as a model. At the age of 15, she was already walking the catwalk, gracing magazine covers, and even modeling swimwear for a famous brand in Brazil. Her life seemed perfect in the eyes of many, Popularity, beauty, and freedom appeared to be part of her world. However, who would have thought that fate would lead her down a different path, one filled with peace and true meaning in life? Elizabeth's spiritual journey began when she visited Egypt for a vacation. She enjoyed the beauty of the land of the pyramids, wandered through bazaars, tasted local delicacies, and admired the exotic Middle Eastern culture. However, a small incident changed her entire perspective on life. While shopping at a bazaar with a group of tourists, Elizabeth noticed a Muslim shopkeeper who suddenly closed his store right in front of them. It was Friday. At that time, Elizabeth still had a materialistic mindset and felt surprised and somewhat annoyed. To her, it was a golden opportunity for the shopkeeper to make a big profit since the tourists were ready to spend a lot of money. How foolish this man is, Elizabeth thought. Why would he close his shop and turn down our money? Her curiosity pushed her to ask the shopkeeper directly. The answer she received was simple, yet it struck her deeply. "I am a Muslim, and it is my duty to perform the Friday prayer," the man replied calmly. Elizabeth was speechless. She never expected someone to willingly give up worldly profit just to fulfill a religious obligation. From that moment, her mind became filled with deep questions. What is the true purpose of life? Why is this man so steadfast in his faith? What makes this religion so strong? Curious about Islam, Elizabeth began exploring its teachings. She purchased a translation of the Quran and started reading it. Initially, she was merely seeking knowledge, but the deeper she read, the more captivated she became. When she reached the middle of Surah al-Baqarah, Elizabeth experienced something she had never felt before, an overwhelming sense of peace. She found answers to many of the questions that had long troubled her mind. I felt as if the Quran was speaking directly to me. I cried as I realized how empty my life had been all this time. I had everything, beauty, a career, money, but there was still a void that couldn't be filled. And when I read the Quran, I discovered the true meaning of life, she recalled. With full conviction, Elizabeth finally recited the Shahada, officially embracing Islam and choosing it as her path in life. However, her journey of transformation was not easy. Her decision to convert to Islam brought numerous challenges and hardships. Elizabeth decided to wear the hijab as an act of obedience to Allah. Unfortunately, this decision cost her her job. Once respected as a teacher, she was suddenly fired solely for wearing the hijab. They even offered me double my salary if I agreed to remove my hijab. But I refused. I couldn't betray my faith, and because of that, I was fired and expelled, she recalled, her eyes welling with tears. Elizabeth's life changed drastically. From being a model with many fans, she had to face a life filled with challenges. Not only did she lose her job, but she also lost her place to stay. However, she remained resilient and was confident that Allah would open a way for her. In the midst of her hardship, Elizabeth met a man who was intrigued by her conversion story. He offered his help and connected her with an acquaintance in Egypt. It seemed as if it was destined as Elizabeth returned to Egypt, the country where her journey to Islam had begun. There she found a place to live and a supportive Muslim community. Now Elizabeth has settled in Egypt and lives as a devout Muslimah. The story of Elizabeth Yakstad is a testament that guidance can come from anywhere, even from unexpected small events. From a model living in a glamorous world, she found peace in Islam. Elizabeth chose to lose wealth and worldly comforts in order to preserve her faith. However, she gained something far more valuable: peace of mind, conviction, and true happiness. I may have lost my job and my home, but I found something far more precious: Islam, and that is the greatest gift of my life, she said gratefully. Elizabeth's journey reminds us that in every trial, there is unexpected help from Allah. And for those who seek the truth with a sincere heart, Allah will surely guide them to His path.